Okay.
Okay, we are going to try out some different sampling equipment here and demonstrate how to take samples for both method 1623 and also for the old consensus method for the microscopic particulate analysis. The whole plan is to get the water through the filter. So the filters themselves could be like this, which is for the old consensus method, a string wound cartridge filter. Or it could be like this, a Filtermax cartridge that will fit into a small housing. Somewhere on here there is a small tab that allows you to tear this open. Here it is. And when you take the sampler, when you receive it, first you will get it in the container that we shipped you. It consists of a water meter and a filter housing. The filter housing unscrews like this. Filter comes out of the package. You'll find that there's a small bolt that is holding it together, and this is a rounded edge here, and this is not. The rounded edge goes in just like that. And then this is screwed back tight, not too tight because they're hard to get apart otherwise, just enough so it doesn't leak. And then it's only a matter of connecting it to your water source with a garden hose, like so. Now the volume that will be filtered can be measured with the meter that's attached to it, and we use different kinds of meters. This kind measures in cubic meters, so the 3 decimal places, which are 2 red ones and then a rotating dial, are actually liters, and the white digits are cubic meters. There are 1,000 liters in a cubic meter, and so this thing, this digit here, the closest one to the red, will not move until 1,000 have gone by. Now, some meters are different. Sometimes we have meters like this, and they measure either in cubic meters or in US gallons, so it's important to note which one it is. We will send paperwork that has the correct units on it, but errors can happen, and you need to be aware that it's always US gallons, never imperial. There are 3.8 US gallons, or sorry, 3.8 liters per US gallon, and that conversion can be made either on the report sheet or we can make it for you, so long as we know what the units are. So once the filter is in place and it is connected, all you have to do is turn on the water and use some other hose if you need to accommodate the discharge water, and then you can proceed to sample. Normally we're looking for at least 100 liters. Sometimes that's not possible. If the turbidity is high enough, you may not get that much water through. The rule of thumb is that when the flow rate starts to slow down, you might as well quit, because very soon you won't be getting very much more water through it, and we don't want to overload the filter. So that is for method 1623. If you're going to sample with the consensus method, that equipment is different. It usually comes in a box like this. The lids detach, and it's the same basic idea, except that now it is much bigger because we need to be able to put that string-on filter in the cartridge so that it's accessible from the back. So both sides can come off. And it's easiest to get this apart from the rear. And unscrew the housing. Put in the filter. Doesn't matter which way it goes. Screw this up. And there it is, ready to go. So the hose in this case is going to go down here, like that, and it's marked on the inlet side. The outlet, you might want another hose just to take the water away. The way these units are set up is that the water comes up through here through a pressure reducing valve, because with these old filters they really can't handle much more than 12 to 15 pounds per square inch. So this pressure reducing valve breaks the pressure down to that level. If that's still too much, or if you want to extend your sampling time, you can open this bypass loop, which will waste water down through here so that it will not pass through the meter and it will not pass through the filter. Usually you would do it with the valve closed. If there's any kind of valve down here, you want to make sure that it's open. Sometimes we put those on there so that there can be a low pressure input. This is a low pressure input, in fact, here. If you find that your water pressure is not high enough to trip the pressure reducing valve, you could close this off down here and you could open up a valve by hooking, or hook up the hose here, open up the valve, and water will go directly into the filter there. With method 1623 and these larger, these smaller filters here, they can handle up to 90 pounds per square inch without any problem at all. So they're set up mostly for drinking water applications where there's loss of line pressure. If your pressure is much lower than 40 pounds per square inch, you're going to find that the sampling rate is very slow. It will still work, it will just be slow. So their optimal pressure is somewhere around 75 psi, but anything from 40 to 75 should work fairly well. If your pressure coming out of the wellhead or any other source is too high, we can also provide an additional pressure reducing valve, which will break pressure down from even 500 pounds per square inch down to about 75 or 60 pounds per square inch, so that it doesn't do damage to the equipment. It's rare to need those, but sometimes it does come up. Once you've taken your sample, you want to remove it from the housing. And this is a microbiological sample, so we don't want to contaminate it in any way. The easiest way to handle it is simply to lift off or hold off the filter like that, and using a suitable sized bag, just dump it straight in. That's all we need to do. A little bit of water inside is fine. In fact, it's a good thing, so don't be afraid to empty what's in the housing here. That gets sealed. It's wise to double bag your samples if you can. And you also need to fill out the all-important paperwork. Without the paperwork, we cannot send you results. So we supply a sheet like this that gives you a place to write your name and your address and your email address, because we normally send results back by email. We can do it other ways if you prefer, but email is generally the most efficient. And there's a place down here where you record the beginning and the end readings on the meter. So you must remember to record the meter reading before you begin, and then record it again afterwards, and make the calculation for the units if necessary. We generally work in liters. This then also goes in a separate plastic bag, not the same one as the sample, please, and make sure that it is also in the cooler along with the sample. And suitable cooling material. So the paperwork goes in a separate bag, like so. It all goes in the cooler, like that. And we need to have an ice pack. Enough ice packs to keep it cool. Depends on the season. If it's going to be hot in the summer, you want 2 or 3 of them. If it's not so hot in the winter, maybe only 1 or 2. But because the coolers are bound to be stored in a heated building somewhere, they need to be able to stay cool for at least a day or 2. We prefer to have shipping by air. If that's not possible, then ground. But in any case, we must be working on the sample within 96 hours of receipt or of sampling. So if you sample on a Monday and we get it at Friday at 4 in the afternoon, that will be awkward. We can handle that, but we would prefer not to if we don't have to, unless it's an emergency. So please schedule your sampling so that there's enough time for it to arrive, and we need a full day to work on the sample in order to stay within the parameters of the methods. The only other thing that you might need to consider at some point is sometimes it's useful to be able to filter bulk samples, and that means that it's easier to grab the sample out of the field with a 20-liter container and then pump it through the filter, which you could do with a pump like this, which I purchased from Canadian Tire. It was quite reasonable in price, and change the fittings on it so that I could just put my filter assembly on top like that. And then the intake is just going into a bucket or wherever is convenient. And the effluent comes out here. So this works very well and is often the most attractive alternative if you're in a place where there's either no pressurized water, or there's no power, or there's no easy access, or it might be through the ice under winter conditions. So if necessary, we can do this work for you here. If it's not possible to filter a sample in the field, if you send us 20 liters of water in a plastic bag, we will filter it for you here and take care of it from that point onwards. Any questions? Give us a call. 403-502-7999 is my cell phone. The lab number is 403-529-0847. You can also call toll-free 888-529-0847. Thanks.